They called her the beast in the sack. But the cowboy found his heart inside it. The Orion frontier was a wide, lonely place where sky met dust, and the past still wore a hat. Out here, people still called themselves cowboys, even if their boots had magnetic soles and their horses were built in labs instead of barns. The old ways survived because the land demanded it. Fences needed fixing, water needed hauling, and trouble always found a way to ride in. Cole Mercer rode into Black Hollow at sunset. His mount, a cyberbred gelding named Flint, moved steady and quiet. Flint's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and his metal fiber muscles flexed beneath a coat that looked almost real. Cole liked him that way, strong, loyal, and not afraid of the dark. Black Hollow was not a big town. It was a cluster of buildings made from scrap plating and old colony modules, surrounded by wind-shaved rocks and dry fields. A few solar towers leaned toward the last light, and a water tank stood like a watchman near the road. Cole had been traveling for 3 days without proper sleep. His water reserves were low, and the air had a hard taste that made his throat feel tight. He needed supplies. Maybe a hot meal if the town had a cook who still cared. As he stepped off Flint and tied him outside a small trading post, he noticed something odd. The town was too quiet. A few people stood in doorways. They watched Cole with the kind of stare that was not curious but worried. A child was pulled back inside a building as soon as Cole looked their way. Somewhere, a door slid shut with a soft hiss, like someone trying not to be heard. Cole entered the trading post. The place smelled like oil, dried herbs, and old fabric. Shelves held ration packs, water filters, spare batteries, rope, and small tools. Behind the counter stood a thin woman with gray hair and tired eyes. A scanner rested beside her hand, though her grip was shaking slightly. She looked Cole up and down, his hat, his dust coat, the small plasma revolver on his hip. "New face," she said. "Just passing through," Cole replied. His voice was calm, steady. "Need water, food, and a room if you've got one." The woman hesitated before reaching under the counter. She placed 2 sealed water pouches and a pack of protein strips in front of him. Her hands moved like she wanted to rush, but also like she feared making noise. "You should leave before dark," she said quietly. Cole paused. "Bad storm?" Her eyes flicked to the window. "Not weather." Cole had heard that tone before, fear that had been living in a person for too long. "What happened here?" he asked. The woman swallowed. "People talk, I don't. Sometimes talking keeps people alive." She gave him a quick, sharp look. "Sometimes talking gets them noticed." Cole did not press her more. He paid for the supplies and stepped outside. The air had cooled, but tension still hung over the street like smoke. Across from the trading post, a group of miners stood near an old loader machine. Their faces were dusty, their shoulders tense. One of them, a heavy man with scarred arms and a short beard, broke away from the group and walked toward Cole. "You ain't from here," the man said. It wasn't a question. "No," Cole answered. The man glanced toward the edge of town. "Then don't stick your nose where it don't belong." Cole lifted one brow. "That warning is usually attached to a story." The miner's jaw tightened. "You heard about the sack," Cole frowned. "The sack," another miner, younger, with wide eyes, leaned closer. "They found it out by the old riverbed, dragged it in like a catch, said it was moving." Cole looked between them. "A sack moving isn't much of a threat." The heavy miner's voice dropped lower. "It ain't the sack that's the problem, it's what's in it." Cole watched their faces, real fear, not the kind people pretended, the kind that made a town go silent at sunset. "What's in it?" Cole asked. The young miner spoke fast, like he needed the words out of him. "They called it the beast in the sack. Some say it's a colony experiment, some say it's a raider trick, some say it's a thing from the dead zones." Cole had traveled far enough to know all 3 could be true in some way. "Where is it now?" Cole asked. The heavy miner pointed toward the outskirts. "Locked in old Redden's barn. Sheriff put a seal on the doors, told everyone to stay away." "And you stayed away?" The heavy miner looked uncomfortable. "We tried, but at night you can hear it like crying. Like something trying to breathe through cloth." Cole's chest tightened slightly. He did not like the way that sounded. "Why call it a beast?" Cole asked. The miners exchanged looks. The younger one whispered, "Because folks are scared, and scared folks name things ugly." Cole turned his eyes toward the edge of town. A barn, a sealed door, a sack moving in the dark. Most smart men would buy a room, keep their head down, and leave at first light. Cole had done that many times. He'd seen worlds where curiosity got people hurt. But he had also seen something else. When a whole town was afraid, it often meant someone powerless was trapped under that fear. Cole led Flint toward the small inn at the end of the street and secured him in a sheltered stable. He got a room, ate a plain meal, and waited until the sky turned fully black. Through the small window, he saw lights in town go out one by one. People closed themselves inside as if darkness was a predator. When the inn grew quiet, Cole stepped out. He moved like a shadow, keeping to the back lanes and behind stacked crates. The barn sat beyond the last row of buildings, where the land dipped into rough ground and scattered stones. The structure was old, half wood, half metal plating. Its door had been reinforced with a security lock. A small red light blinked on the panel. Cole crouched beside the lock. It was basic, colony standard. The kind meant to discourage thieves, not a determined man with a tool kit and experience. Cole slipped a thin bypass wire into the seam, adjusted the current, and waited for the lock to click. The light turned green. Cole pushed the barn door open just enough to slide inside. Darkness swallowed him. The air smelled of dust, dry hay, and something faintly sharp like ozone. A single overhead lamp flickered weakly, casting trembling shadows across the floor. At the center of the barn lay a large sack. It was bigger than any feed bag. Its fabric looked like woven metal fibers, tough, flexible, and expensive. Thick restraints glowed around it, binding it tightly. The sack shifted slightly as if something inside tried to turn over. Cole's fingers tightened around his flashlight. He approached slowly. He had dealt with dangerous animals on frontier farms. He had dealt with raiders. He had dealt with broken machines that did not know they were broken. But this felt different. The sack did not move like a trap. It moved like a living thing trying to make itself smaller. Cole stopped a few steps away. He listened. At first, there was only the creak of the barn and his own breath. Then he heard it. A soft sound, not a growl, not a snarl, a quiet, uneven inhale and a shaky exhale, like someone trying not to cry. Cole crouched, careful not to startle whatever was inside. "Hey," he said, keeping his voice low. "It's all right. I'm not here to hurt you." The sack went still. For a moment, Cole thought maybe it had been his imagination. Maybe the town's fear had started to creep into his head. Then the fabric shifted again, and a voice came through it. Thin, weak, human. "Please don't leave." Cole's heart gave a hard, strange beat. He leaned closer, keeping his hands open and visible. "Who are you?" he asked. The voice hesitated, as if searching for the right words. I don't know what they call me anymore." Cole swallowed. "Are you injured?" A trembling pause. "I'm tired. I can't breathe right in here." Cole looked at the restraints. They were glowing with a low-energy field. Whoever tied this sack did not want it opened. He should have turned around. He should have gone back to the inn and slept. He should have waited for the sheriff or asked questions in daylight. But the voice had not sounded like a monster. It had sounded like a person. Cole reached for the nearest restraint and studied the clasp. "I'm going to loosen one," he said. "Slowly, no sudden moves, all right?" The sack shifted, just a small nod-like movement from inside. Cole worked the clasp with a steady hand. The energy glow dimmed and the fabric loosened slightly around the top. A small opening formed, not enough to let anything out, but enough to let air in. A quiet gasp came from inside, like a drowning person catching breath. Cole peered into the gap. At first he saw only darkness, then he saw eyes. They reflected the weak lamplight, wide, frightened, and very much alive, not wild, not angry, just scared and exhausted. Cole's chest tightened with something he did not expect. Compassion. Outside the barn, a board creaked. Cole froze, footsteps approached fast, crunching gravel. A voice shouted, sharp and angry. "Someone in there?" Cole turned his head toward the door, then back to the eyes in the sack. Fear flashed there, pure panic. "Don't let them," the voice inside began, then broke off into a shaking breath. Cole made a choice before he could talk himself out of it. He lifted his tool and began cutting the next restraint. The barn door rattled as someone grabbed it. "Open up," the voice demanded. "Now." Cole worked faster, hands steady despite the rising danger. The last restraint flickered, then snapped loose. The sack loosened further, opening enough for Cole to see more than eyes. He saw a face, not a beast. A young woman, skin pale beneath dust, hair tangled, cheek marked with old bruising that had already faded to yellow. She looked like she had been dragged through fear and left there. Around her neck was a thin metal collar with a faded colony symbol and a serial number scratched into it. Cole's breath caught. This was not a monster. This was someone had treated like one. The barn door slammed open, light spilling in and silhouettes filled the doorway. Cole positioned himself between the woman and the men. His hand hovered near his revolver, not eager, not reckless, just ready. The heavy miner stepped forward, face twisted with anger and fear. Behind him stood the sheriff, a tall woman with a badge plate and a hard stare. "You don't know what you've done," the sheriff said. Cole kept his voice calm. "I know exactly what I did. I let her breathe." The woman in the sack flinched behind Cole, her fingers gripping the fabric like it was the only safe thing left. Cole glanced down at her and spoke softly, so only she could hear. "It's okay," he said. "I'm here." Her voice was a whisper now, shaking with relief and terror. "They called me a beast," she said, "but I'm not." Cole lifted his eyes to the people in the doorway and his tone hardened. "Then you better start acting like you know the difference," he said, and in that moment Cole Mercer understood one thing clearly. Whatever truth lived in Black Hollow, it was tied to this woman, and the town was willing to do terrible things to keep that truth buried. The barn stood heavy with silence after Cole's words. Dust floated slowly in the air while the sheriff and the miners stared at him like he had crossed a line no outsider should cross. The woman behind him shifted weakly, her breathing still uneven but stronger than before. Sheriff Mara Hale stepped forward first. She was tall with sharp eyes and a long coat marked by years of hard decisions. "You don't understand," she said calmly but firmly. "Step aside." Cole did not move. "She was suffocating," he replied. "That's enough understanding for me." One of the miners muttered, "That thing ain't human." The woman flinched behind Cole. He heard it. He felt the fear in her movement. "She has a voice," Cole said. "That's human enough." Sheriff Hale raised her hand, signaling the others to stay back. She studied Cole for a long moment. "You're new here," she said. "You haven't seen what we've seen." "Then explain it," Cole answered. The sheriff hesitated, as if deciding how much truth to share. "We found her 3 nights ago," she said slowly, "out near the dead fields. Wrapped in that sack, alone, no ship crashed nearby, no tracks, just there." Cole glanced back at the woman, her eyes stayed low, avoiding everyone. "What did she do?" he asked. "That's the problem," the sheriff replied. "Nothing and everything," Cole frowned. "She doesn't act like a raider, doesn't act like a lost colonist either. Sensors picked up strange energy readings from her body. Machines fail when she gets stressed. Lights flicker, tools break, animals refuse to go near." The miners nodded nervously. "She's dangerous," one said. The woman whispered behind Cole, "I don't mean to hurt anything." Cole turned slightly toward her. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She hesitated, as if the question itself hurt. "I don't remember clearly," she said. "They used numbers more than names." Cole's jaw tightened. "Who are they?" he asked. Her shoulders trembled. "The people who made me." The barn went still. Sheriff Hale's eyes narrowed. "Made you?" The woman nodded slowly. "I was grown, not born, in a lab. They said I was an experiment. They said I had to be strong, useful, perfect." The miners shifted uncomfortably. Cole felt anger rise quietly in his chest. He had heard of colony labs doing strange things, especially in far systems where rules were weaker. "What happened?" he asked. "They were afraid of me," she whispered. "Even when I tried to be good, they watched me all the time, tested me. When things broke around me, they said it was proof I was wrong." Her hands shook. "One day alarms started, people shouting. They locked me in the sack and sent me away in a transport pod. I woke up here." Cole exchanged a look with the sheriff. "That doesn't explain the energy readings," Sheriff Hale said. The woman swallowed hard. "I don't know how to control it," she said quietly. "When I feel too much, things around me react." Cole remembered the flickering lights when he entered. The faint ozone smell, not a monster, just someone with power she didn't understand. The sheriff crossed her arms. "That's why she was restrained." "We couldn't risk damage to the town." Cole stood slowly. "There's restraint," he said, "and there's treating someone like an animal." A tense silence followed. Finally, Sheriff Hale sighed. "I don't like it either," she admitted. "But this town has survived too many disasters to take chances." Cole nodded slowly. He understood responsibility. Frontier towns lived one mistake away from collapse, but he also knew fear could turn good people into jailers. "What's the plan for her?" he asked. The sheriff did not answer immediately. "Supply ship arrives in 3 days," she said finally. "We send her off-world to colony authorities." The woman stiffened. "No," she whispered. Cole heard pure panic in her voice. "Why not?" he asked. "They'll send me back," she said. "Back to the lab." Her breathing grew fast, and suddenly the overhead lamp flickered violently. Metal tools hanging on the wall rattled. The miners stepped back. "See," one shouted. "It's happening again." Cole raised his hand calmly toward her. "Hey," he said softly. "Look at me." She lifted her eyes, shaking. "Slow breaths," he said. "You're safe right now." The flickering slowed, the rattling stopped. The barn fell quiet again. Sheriff Hale watched closely, surprise showing briefly on her face. "She calmed because of you," she said. Cole shrugged slightly. Maybe she just needed someone to treat her like a person. The sheriff looked thoughtful. Outside, thunder rolled faintly across the plains. A dust storm was coming. "Fine," she said finally. "She stays out of the sack tonight, but she doesn't leave town." "And you're responsible for her," Cole blinked. "Me? You opened it," the sheriff replied. "Now you make sure nothing goes wrong." The miners protested, but the sheriff silenced them with a glance. Cole turned to the woman. "Can you walk?" he asked. She nodded slowly, though her legs trembled as she tried to stand. Cole offered his hand. She hesitated only a second before taking it. Her touch was warm, surprisingly gentle. As she stepped free of the sack, Cole noticed faint glowing lines along her arms like soft light beneath her skin, not threatening, just strange. The miners stared. "She looks normal," one murmured. "She always did," another replied quietly. Cole helped her toward the door. "What should I call you?" he asked again. She thought for a long moment. "Call me Lyra," she said finally. Cole smiled slightly. "Lyra it is." Outside, the wind picked up, carrying dust across the ground. The town lights glowed weakly through the storm haze. As they walked toward the inn, Lyra stayed close to him, watching everything like a frightened animal learning the world again. "Why did you help me?" she asked softly. Cole looked ahead at the dark street. "Because someone needed to," he said. She seemed confused by the simplicity of that answer. They reached the inn, and the owner stared in shock as they entered. "You let her out," she whispered. Cole nodded. Lyra lowered her gaze, expecting rejection. Instead, after a long pause, the woman stepped aside. "Storm's coming," she said quietly. "No one sleeps outside tonight." Lyra looked surprised. Cole guided her toward a table near the window. For the first time since waking in Black Hollow, she sat without restraints, without fear pressing on her shoulders. Outside, thunder rolled louder. Inside, something fragile began to change. But neither of them noticed the shadow watching from across the street, a figure speaking quietly into a communication device. "They opened the package," the voice said. A cold reply came through the speaker. "Good. Maintain observation. Retrieval team arrives soon." The storm arrived before midnight. Wind howled across Black Hollow, carrying sand that rattled against metal walls like tiny stones. The sky flashed with distant lightning, turning the town into a series of sharp shadows and sudden light. Inside the small inn, most people stayed quiet. Lamps glowed low, and conversations were whispered. Everyone felt that something was coming, though no one said it aloud. Lyra sat near the window, her hands wrapped around a warm cup the innkeeper had given her. Steam rose slowly, and she watched it like it was something new and fragile. Cole sat across from her, hat pushed back slightly. He watched the room more than the storm outside. Years of traveling had taught him that danger often entered through doors, not clouds. "You should rest," he told her gently. Lyra shook her head. "I'm afraid to sleep," she admitted. "Every time I slept in the lab, I woke somewhere else." Cole understood. He had seen animals trained through fear. The habit stayed long after the cage was gone. "You're not there now," he said. She nodded, but her fingers still trembled. Across the room, Sheriff Hale leaned against the wall, pretending to check a data pad while clearly watching them. She had allowed Lyra freedom, but trust came slowly on the frontier. Outside, thunder cracked louder. The door opened suddenly. Cold wind rushed inside, bringing dust and darkness with it. 3 figures stepped through, tall, wearing long coats designed for storms. Their boots were too clean for miners, their movements too precise for travelers. Cole felt tension tighten in his chest. One of the newcomers lowered his hood. His face was smooth, calm, and empty of warmth. "Evening," he said politely. No one answered. The man's eyes moved across the room, stopping on Lyra. "There you are," he said softly. Lyra froze. The cup slipped from her hands and fell onto the floor with a dull sound. Cole stood slowly. "You know her?" he asked. The man smiled faintly. "We've been looking for our lost property." The word hung heavy in the air. Lyra shook her head quickly, panic rising. "No, no." Cole stepped slightly in front of her. "She's not property," he said. The other 2 strangers moved closer, positioning themselves near the exits. The sheriff's hand moved toward her weapon. "Identify yourselves," Sheriff Hale said firmly. The first man pulled a small badge from his coat. "Colonial Research Authority," he said calmly. "We are here for retrieval." The room fell silent. Cole studied the badge. It looked official, too official, the kind of authority that rarely asked permission. "You can't just walk in and take someone," the sheriff said. The man turned toward her. "With respect, Sheriff, this individual is classified as experimental technology under federal jurisdiction. Your cooperation is expected." Lyra's breathing grew fast. The lamps flickered slightly. Cole raised a hand toward her without turning around. "Easy," he murmured. The flickering slowed. The man noticed. "Yes," he said quietly, "that reaction is exactly why she cannot remain here." "She's scared," Cole replied. "That's all." "She is unstable," the man corrected. "And valuable." Cole's jaw tightened. "You call her valuable," he said slowly. "But you treated her like cargo." The man did not deny it. "That is because she is a product," he said simply. Lyra's voice broke behind Cole. "Please don't send me back." The words cut through the room. For a moment, even the storm seemed quieter. Sheriff Hale stepped forward. "You said supply ship arrives in 3 days," she told the man. "You can wait until then. We handle things our way here." The man smiled again, but this time there was no kindness in it. "I'm afraid we cannot wait," he said. "Our orders are immediate retrieval." One of his companions lifted a small device. A faint hum filled the air. Cole recognized the sound, containment technology. Lyra gasped as the device activated. Invisible pressure seemed to push around her, making it harder for her to move. "No," she whispered. Cole moved quickly, stepping between her and the device. "Turn that off," he said. The man tilted his head. "Step aside." Cole did not. The room felt like a drawn weapon. Sheriff Hale spoke sharply. "You will not use force inside my town." The man's eyes turned cold. "We will do what is required." The device hummed louder. Lyra cried out softly, clutching her head. Lights flickered wildly, and the metal table beside her trembled. Cole grabbed her shoulders gently. "Look at me," he said firmly. "Stay with me." Her eyes met his, filled with fear and trust. The trembling slowed. The man watched with clear interest. "Fascinating," he murmured. "She responds to you?" Cole ignored him. "She's not going anywhere tonight," Cole said. The man sighed as if dealing with stubborn children. "Very well," he said. "We will be patient for now." He nodded to his companions. The humming device shut off. Lyra collapsed slightly against Cole, exhausted. "We'll stay at the edge of town," the man continued. "But understand this, she belongs to us." They turned and left as suddenly as they had arrived. The door closed behind them, leaving silence and the fading sound of the storm. Lyra's breathing remained uneven. Cole helped her sit. "They're coming back," she whispered. "I know," he said. Sheriff Hale walked closer, her expression serious. "You brought trouble with you," she said quietly. Cole met her gaze. "Looks like trouble followed her." The sheriff nodded slowly. "They won't wait long," she said. "Authority or not, I do like how they act." Lyra lifted her head. "They will take me," she said. "They always do." Cole felt something shift inside him, a decision forming. "Not this time," he said. Lyra looked at him, unsure whether to believe. Outside, lightning flashed again, and through the window Cole saw distant lights moving beyond the storm, vehicles waiting, watching. The retrieval team was preparing. And Cole understood that by opening the sack. He had stepped into a fight much bigger than a small frontier town. But when he looked at Lyra, scared, trying to be strong, he knew one thing clearly. He was not going to let anyone treat her like a thing again. The storm did not stop. Wind roared across Black Hollow like an angry ocean, pushing sand against buildings and shaking metal roofs. Lightning flashed again and again, turning the night into brief moments of bright silver. Inside the inn, nobody slept. Sheriff Hale stood near the door, arms crossed, thinking deeply. Cole leaned against the wall beside Lyra, who sat quietly but tense, her eyes moving toward every sound outside. "They won't wait until morning," the sheriff said finally. Cole nodded. He knew that already. The men from the Colonial Research Authority were patient, but they were not kind. They would come back with force. Lyra lowered her gaze. "I don't want anyone hurt because of me," she said softly. Cole shook his head. "This isn't your fault." "They always say that," she replied. "But people still get hurt." The lights flickered slightly as her emotions rose. She quickly closed her eyes and took a slow breath, trying to stay calm. Sheriff Hale watched carefully. "You've learned control," she said. Lyra nodded faintly. "Only a little." In the lab, they tried to teach me, but mostly they tried to stop me. Cole felt anger rise again, but he kept his voice calm. What exactly can you do? He asked gently. Lyra hesitated, unsure how to explain. I don't know fully, she said. Energy moves when I feel strongly. Machines react. Sometimes I can push things without touching. Sheriff Hale's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. That explains the sensor readings. Outside, a distant engine sound broke through the storm. Cole turned toward the window. Lights moved through the dust, vehicles approaching. They're here, he said quietly. The room went still. Sheriff Hale straightened. Everyone stay inside, she ordered the few remaining townspeople. Then she turned to Cole. We need a plan, Cole thought fast. Running blindly into the storm would not work. Fighting directly would risk the town. We split their focus, he said. Give Lyra a way out while they think she's still here. Lyra looked at him, surprised. You mean leave? Cole met her eyes. Only if you want to. She hesitated. The idea of running again clearly frightened her. I don't want to keep hiding, she said quietly. You're not hiding, Cole replied. You're choosing your path. Outside, boots hit the ground. Metal doors slammed. The retrieval team had arrived. Sheriff Hale grabbed her rifle. I'll slow them down, she said. You take her through the back route, old water tunnels behind the stable. Cole nodded. The inn door opened suddenly. The same calm man from before stepped inside, rain and dust sliding from his coat. We appreciate your cooperation, he said smoothly. Now step aside. Sheriff Hale lifted her rifle slightly. You're done giving orders here. The man sighed, disappointed. I hope to avoid conflict. Behind him, more agents appeared, holding containment devices. Lyra's breathing quickened. The lamps flickered again. Cole leaned closer to her. Remember, he whispered, slow breaths. She nodded, focusing on him. Sheriff Hale stepped forward, blocking the agents. This town protects its own, she said firmly. The man's expression hardened. She is not yours to protect. Cole used the distraction. He guided Lyra quietly toward the back door. Step by step, they moved while the sheriff argued loudly with the agents. Outside the back exit, the storm hit them hard. Wind pushed against their bodies and dust filled the air. This way, Cole said, leading her toward the stable. They moved quickly but carefully, using shadows and structures for cover. Behind them, raised voices turned into sudden shouts. They're escaping, someone yelled. Cole cursed under his breath. They noticed, Lyra said. That's all right, he replied. Keep moving. They reached the stable and slipped inside. Flint lifted his head, recognizing Cole immediately. Cole saddled the cyberhorse fast. Can you ride? He asked. Lyra nodded nervously. He helped her climb up behind him. The moment she touched Flint, faint light pulsed along her arms, and the horse gave a soft electronic whinny, sensing her energy but not rejecting it. Gunfire cracked outside, warning shots into the air. They're coming, Cole said. He kicked Flint forward. The stable doors burst open as they rode into the storm. Vehicles chased behind them, engines roaring. Lyra clung tightly to Cole. I don't want to run forever, she said over the wind. You won't, he answered. Ahead, the land opened into wide plains. Lightning struck nearby, illuminating the path. Suddenly, a containment net fired from one of the vehicles, spreading through the air toward them. Lyra gasped. Instinct took over. She raised one hand. Energy surged outward, not violent, just strong. The net slowed midair, shaking like caught in invisible currents before falling harmlessly to the ground. Cole glanced back, impressed but calm. You did that, he said. I didn't mean to, she replied, shocked. That's okay. Another vehicle moved ahead, trying to cut them off. Lyra closed her eyes again, breathing deeply. I don't want to hurt anyone, she whispered. Then don't, Cole said. Just protect yourself. She focused. The engine of the pursuing vehicle flickered and died, rolling to a stop. The remaining agents slowed, uncertain. Cole guided Flint toward a ridge overlooking the valley. At the top, he stopped. The storm began to fade, leaving only distant thunder. Behind them, the agents waited but did not advance further. The calm man stepped forward alone. You cannot run forever, he called. Cole turned slightly. She's not running, he replied. She's choosing. Lyra slid down from the horse and stood beside Cole. Wind moved through her hair, and for the first time she did not look afraid. I am not your experiment, she said clearly. I am not your property. The man watched her carefully. You are something valuable, he said. Lyra shook her head. I am someone. Silence stretched between them. Finally, the man sighed. This is not finished, he said. Then he turned away, signaling retreat. The vehicles backed off slowly, disappearing into the distance. Lyra stared, surprised. "They're leaving." "For now," Cole said. She looked at the horizon where dawn's first light began to appear. "What happens next?" she asked. Cole smiled slightly. "Next," he said, "you figure out who you want to be." She looked at him, warmth replacing fear. "And you?" she asked. Cole adjusted his hat. "I ride," he said simply, "but maybe not alone anymore." Lyra smiled softly. Together, they turned toward the open frontier as the sun rose, leaving behind a town that had learned the difference between fear and understanding, and carrying with them a future no lab could define.